Okay, so quick recap again. I just got off active duty orders recently at the end of September 2024. And by the time I got off active duty orders, it was clear that I needed hip replacement surgery. So, surgery was actually completed on December 30th. And I'm doing well with recovery. I'm also doing daily updates about my recovery. My personal concerns are whether I'll be able to return to grappling, jiu-jitsu, MMA, that kind of stuff. And also, I think I'm kind of discovering systemic issues with our healthcare system in the process of all this. So let's look into some of that. Today we're going to focus on my PT program. All right. So whoops. Let's start at the beginning. Let me back up. There we go. So I'm just going to briefly go over my exercises that Stanford gave me for doing these at home before I start with physical therapy. Then I'll get into that. So this is basically just moving my feet back and forth, and I have to confess I've been doing these wrong because I did not let my feet hang off the bed. But that's what it says here. To prevent blood clots, right? Because you don't want to die from a blood clot from spending your time in bed. Then you have these calf stretches, which I do have a band, but to be honest with you, and I confess I haven't done these because it's kind of a pain to get that band out and everything. So I'm gonna have to get on that and be better about doing these. Also to prevent blood clots, I suppose. Then you've got something that is just squeezing your glutes. Just without moving anything, you're just kind of flexing. Hold for 5 seconds. All right, and this is the sort of more advanced version where you do the glute bridge. This is a progression from number 3 when ready, as it says down here. And you just lift your butt up off the ground, and I've actually done these before in the past for various other reasons with the legs up and whatnot. But anyway, that's one of the next exercises, and then you've got this one where you push down against a towel under your leg. I have done these in bed, not on a towel, but more so like pillows and whatever. Um, and let's see what else is there. And there's this one-legged straight leg raise. Um, Gotta be honest, I haven't done those, but hey, you know what? Maybe I wasn't ready. So this is a progression exercise, and I'm going to start doing these until I can get in with a physical therapist to start me on a different program. And then there are these sort of calf raises or leg raises or whatever you call this. I have done these with my walker that I have. So there's that. I think yep, that is the end of it. So here's a few issues that arose in this process. So it was the VA. I'm part of the VA system, but also other systems. The VA referred me to Stanford, and then Stanford, as part of the care they provided, gave me a referral to any physical therapy provider near me. So they gave me a referral for that. And then I tried to set up an appointment with that PT provider, and they asked about my insurance. And I told them that I had TRICARE, and there's also a separate insurance through my wife's employer. So here's the issue that arose. Well, my insurer is TRICARE, like I said, and a private insurance through my wife's work. So who does the PT provider bill? And the issue here is that um, they already told me that they require a doctor's referral within TRICARE to bill TRICARE because that's not going to happen otherwise. And the VA has set me up for a separate appointment with an internal VA provider for PT, but it's in February, and I don't want to wait that long. I want to get started now. So the bottom line is that because of, even though I'm in a lucky position because I'm more than likely can have most of my care covered without any out-of-pocket costs due to the fact that I have VA. I'm in the VA system, and I also have TRICARE. And on top of that, my wife has private insurance through her work. There are these unnecessary delays that can result in medical, complications. Let's say, I mean, what if I'm doing the exercise program wrong, or if I can't get started soon enough with the PT program, my recovery is going to be affected by that. Now, this may be a small example of that, but I think there are larger issues at stake here, which I'm going to get into a little bit later. So I think the bigger picture takeaway here is that you know worrying about costs and sort of inappropriate attempts to cut costs actually increase costs because they cause delays. So case in point is the fact that I don't believe me at my age should ever have had hip replacement surgery in the first place. I think that the doctors kept asking me about injuries to my hip, and they even noted some of that contrary to what I told them, because never throughout my fighting career did I have an injury to my hip. Um, I had other injuries, and I told them about those, but and that's a separate point about the accuracy of doctors' notes, because I've had a chance to review them, and I've noted several inaccuracies that completely contradicted what I told them, including repeating inaccuracies about surgery on my left shoulder. I never had surgery on my left shoulder, but it did dislocate once a long time ago. And I suppose that left something in there that looked to someone like I had surgery, and that error kept getting repeated. Anyway, back to the point at issue here. It's that the doctors told me that because I was exasperated. I was surprised. I didn't know what to say when they told me that my hips had become so bad that I needed hip replacement surgery at my age. And I asked them, how is it that at my age I need this surgery that I thought was for people in their 80s, which, most people who get this are quite a bit older than I am. And they told me that sometimes it's a genetic predisposition or something like that, but my other hip doesn't have the same issue, and my knees don't have that kind of an issue or anything like that. So they said the most likely explanation is that I had some sort of an injury, and that injury, uh, which I know from the diagnostics that I had a torn labrum there, um, that it basically allowed the arthritis to develop and become so bad that the only solution left was hip replacement surgery. Well, here's my theory. This is my theory only, and it's not a medical opinion because I'm not a doctor, not a medical doctor anyway. I'm a juris doctor, but it's based on what some of the doctors that I've talked to told me. Um, I believe that I did suffer a torn labrum sometime in 2022, shortly before I came off active duty, and because I did have problems with my hips then, but it wasn't anywhere near what it became in 2023. And by the time I went, um, I should say, yeah, shortly before deployment in 2023, I was still able to complete the Army Combat Fitness Test with flying colors. I got 100% on 3 out of 6 events, and I scored a super high score. I did have hip problems back then, but it was nothing like after I returned, during and after I returned from deployment. Um, and I think the problem is that they refused to get me the MRI that would have shown the torn labrum, and instead, initially in 2022, when I reported my sort of achy hip or whatever, they sent me to physical therapy to do exercises and this and that, and that did not solve the problem. So it went undiagnosed, and until it was too late, because they wanted to avoid costs. They wanted to avoid the cost of an MRI that would have diagnosed the problem and could have offered a lesser intervention as a treatment, such as labrum repair surgery or something like that, where I wouldn't have had to have a full hip replacement. So, again, this is just my theory, but I see it again and again where there are attempts to cut costs, to lower costs, to sort of triage things in a way that is wrong. because cutting costs shouldn't be at the stage of diagnostics where, if you don't get that MRI and you miss the fact that there's a torn labrum, then it's going to result in hip replacement surgery. So in other words, you're cutting costs early on to try to avoid these smaller costs, but you end up with a huge cost later. And just take a look at my video about the costs of my surgery to figure out exactly how much that is. But that's just kind of my point. I think the system, to put it mildly, is ass backwards. Okay.